Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my old filler. Today we have a little mini cast just comparing EVO and Anime Expo. I am Hector, and with me today is Kyle.
Hello, hi guys. Long time no see. Like, really long time no see.
Uh, he joined us in one podcast where we literally just had an open mic and talked about anything.
Yeah, I think we were talking about Black Lagoon or something like that back then. It was
Yeah,
something like
Genshin,
that.
which Derek took the mic anyways.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes with these things. But this time we have a little bit more focus. So we're going to be comparing Anime Expo and Evo, and maybe recommend you guys which of those two would you prefer to go to. I'm gonna start off by naming my first history or resume with both the conventions. I've been going to Anime Expo ever since I was a freshman in high school, or was I a sophomore? It's one of those two, and
I
that
want to
was
say sophomore, maybe? It was back when we first joined the anime club. I know that.
yeah, that sounds about right. Um, it was around 2012 is when I went to my first Anime Expo, and I think I might have skipped one or two maybe between that time and 2020. And once 2020 hit, we weren't able to go at all. And we went
Yeah, for
one more
obvious
time,
reasons.
right? The good old meme. And in 2022, we went to Anime Expo one more time, or at least the most recent time. And Evo for me was this year in 2023 was my first time ever going to Evo, and boy, it was quite a way to compare the feeling of those two conventions. So, Kyle, what about your experiences?
So, I've only ever been to Anime Expo twice. Once back in, I think we were seniors or juniors in high school. So around
Around,
there, then I didn't go at all until we went again in 2022, and I had a blast then. And then for Evo, this was my first year at Evo, so that's pretty
yeah, we're
much
both.
my history with that. Although I have also been to Comic Con like 3 or 4 times, but so I might make some reference to that as well, but or some comparisons, I should say, to that. But I definitely prefer Anime Expo and Evo compared to Comic Con by far.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't gone to any conventions, and the only really closest thing I can compare Evo and Anime Expo to is Akihabara, and maybe investing in a trip to Japan
Hmm.
as an alternative. That's really it, and I think it's a completely different experience altogether.
Yeah,
Anyways,
for sure. I mean,
um,
there's some similarities, but
definitely in the purchasing experience, but there's a lot more context to to both different things.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so this year, 2023, was both me and Kyle's very first experience with Anime Expo.
And you
So
mean Evo?
Evo, my bad.
No worries.
You gotta catch them.
We got the fly out to the good old city of sin, out in middle of nowhere of Nevada, Las Vegas, and boy,
So
that was a trip.
one of my one of the things I always like to bring up is when we got off the plane, at least when I did, the very first thing I saw in the airport were slot machines
Oh
in
yeah.
the like it very much felt like the city was trying to theme itself extremely hard. Like it felt so cartoony when I walked in.
It was like a Pokemon region, you know. It was like, oh yeah, this town is this town, and this town is that town, and this one is the gambling one. It was
It's like
straight
as you
up
go in,
that. Like as soon as the doors to the terminal open and you walk outside that plane, it's just slot machines everywhere. I'm like, oh, all right, we in Vegas now, boys.
it's like going to a JRPG town that's like known as the mining town, and every single person in that town is a miner and talks about nothing but stone and steel.
Yep,
That's what it felt like walking into that Las Vegas slot machine area.
straight up. It's just as soon as we walked in, it was like, oh yeah, gambling town, got it.
But we weren't able to explore Las Vegas that much, and I think a big downside or the big reason for that was because we didn't go through car. We went through plane, and we were kind of cheapskates on using Ubers around Vegas because we were there for Evo. You know?
Yeah, we were there for Evo, which that one cool thing, because this kind of leads into our hotel, the Luxor. So the Luxor, the Mandalay Bay, the convention center, and the sports arena, all four are connected, and they were all four within walking distance of one another. So I don't think we ever actually walked outside for more than, I don't know, 5 minutes when we were in like our entire trip in Vegas, which was kind of cool.
There was never any direct sunlight on your beautiful ginger skin.
I know. I never got sunburnt, which is glorious because I usually get burnt in like 10 minutes anytime I walk outside.
Especially in a desert town like Vegas.
Yeah,
like,
where it's 120 out.
So when we were waiting for
winter.
our Uber, oh my goodness. So when we were waiting for our Uber, we went to the garage parking area. Even though it was outside and it wasn't AC, obviously, it was still under shade. And when we arrived to the Luxor Hotel, there was still like a shaded area underneath where you can drop off people there.
Mm.
And from there, it was pretty much all indoors.
Oh yeah, and even at the parking garage, they had giant fans and swamp coolers there blowing on everyone too.
Exactly.
So it never actually felt as hot as what it really was.
Thank God, because August in Vegas does not sound pleasant.
No, it does not.
So, we can go on and talk about the Luxor and Mandela Bay. And I think the only thing I want to mention, I mean, there's cool things. Like if you're into the Egyptian aesthetics of Luxor, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mandela Bay probably has more fancier areas. But I mostly want to bring up the topic of the Luxor and Mandela as far like what can you purchase when you're actively, going there going there for Evo, essentially. And there were some places that I really like because, I love Kung Fu tea. So then the fact that there was a Kung Fu tea really nearby was nice. But there was definitely a lack of variety in food for the Luxor and Mandela. If you love Starbucks, there was no shortage. But
oh yeah, there's like 3 Starbucks all in like a 10-minute walk of one another.
Exactly.
But if you, I want to say that there wasn't necessarily a like not a variety of food, because there was actually quite a few varieties of food there. It's just what are you willing to spend, because they had a lot of food, but a lot of it was over $30 for a meal, and I'm like, nah, I'd rather go to Subway for like $10.
Yep, that's half of my meals at the Mandela Bay were pretty much Subway.
Yeah.
It was the only reasonably priced.
Mm. Everywhere else was pretty expensive, which, to be fair, this is Vegas, and it is during a convention. So, and usually during both conventions as well as in Vegas, they like to nickel dime you on everything. So when we went, I was kind of expecting that. I know you weren't expecting that so much, so it was a little bit more of a shock for you. But at least for me, I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting.
I just wasn't expecting something to the tier of like $7 water bottle. Like it got pretty ridiculous in some areas. And I think the worst part is that like using Subway as a good like marker, I think all the food as far as taste goes was all kind of Subway tier.
Oh yeah, it's all like fast food food court junk.
Yeah. Didn't even have Jersey Mike's, man.
No. Although one of my favorite parts of the Luxor when we were there is when we were at the front of it, and you're looking around and it's all Egyptian theme, and they have the statues and monuments and buildings, and it's all real cool looking, and you're looking at the statues, and immediately to the left is a burger joint.
Yep.
I'm like, what the fuck is this? We're like, oh yeah, America.
This is what Ramses the 11th always wished of when his dynasty was falling apart.
It's like, oh man, if only I could have a burger.
Dude, if they had burgers, like burger joints all over Egypt when it was falling in the Bronze Age, there would have been no collapse.
Oh yeah, they would have been fine. They had food.
But without getting too off topic, Luxor Mandela Bay, it's fine. I didn't quite like the prices of it, but it did feel fancy. We're gonna get more into prices a little later, so we're just gonna move to the next side and actually talk about EVO itself. But going into the I guess the more simple side of Evo is apparently, from what I heard, the growing industry side of Evo, and it's not huge, especially when you compare it to something like Anime Expo, but it is there, which did surprise me. There
Mhm.
is kind of industry presence where you can buy stuff at Evo.
Oh yeah, and it's a
Uh,
lot bigger than I was expecting too. A lot bigger. And the other side of it too was like, I'm a big VTuber fan, and that was the other thing is that there was a shit ton of VTuber merch there. So of course I was loving the hell out of that side.
oh my goodness, man! I was kind of shocked how much there actually was for VTubers.
I know,
Like,
right?
I think when I went, well, where we went to Anime Expo in 2022, there was a decent amount of VTuber stuff, but it felt like Evo had more, even though it was a smaller convention.
Yeah, even though it was smaller, it seemed like it had more, which I was happy because I was just buying keychains and posters and all kinds of stuff. I got the robot cat Hololive Myth beach blanket, which I don't know if anyone knows what that looks like, but it's online. You can look it up. But I ended up getting that blanket. So that's sitting on my bed right now. I'm like, oh yeah.
Kyle got like 5 different versions of that same picture, I
Yep.
swear to God.
I got a blanket. I got the prints. I got the bag. I got the the game pad thing, the mouse pad. I got a bunch of versions of that thing.
Are you sure you're not a Hollow Myth fan?
I'm quite a Hollow Myth fan. I mean, Ina is pretty strong. She's my Oshi.
Would buy an entire pillow set just because they had Ina in the background, and that would be enough for Kyle.
It would be enough for me.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, outside of that, industry side is neat. It had some cool jackets that I personally bought, and some, maybe some other, sort of art that you might be interested in, viewer. But anything you can, and we're gonna get this a little into it later. Anything that you saw at Anime Expo, chances you're gonna see at Evo. The only unique thing I think you'll find at Evo is all like the fighting game stuff, like game pads and hitboxes and all that stuff. Like that's way more. You're probably just gonna see Evo.
Yeah, a lot of the artists that were at Evo were also artists that I noticed that were at Anime Expo. And I'm pretty certain what it is because Anime Expo and Evo are only like a month apart. So chances are everything that we saw at Evo is just the leftovers that didn't sell at Anime Expo.
Yeah, especially with the expectation. I can imagine for the artist, like, and the expectation is like, well, I got all this junk at Anime Expo. I might as well just, try my luck at Vegas and see how much I can just sell the scraps.
Yeah,
But then from
exactly.
one, like, oh crap, we're selling out. Like, there's actually like an audience now to buy our things here at Evo.
And that was something I remember hearing from some of the artists that we talked to, is that they were quite surprised at how much they were selling there.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's worth noting, since we didn't bring it up, that this year, as of this year, Evo has been the biggest it's ever been, to the point where it surpassed the record for the most gone to convention in all of Nevada.
Oh yeah, it was the world record holder for both that, and I believe as the biggest esport event in it's either in Nevada and I believe in America in general.
I would believe it.
So there, I wish I brought up the numbers here, but I remember it was world record numbers for it.
I think it was by the country.
Yeah.
If not, might have been world record. But it was pretty big. Trust us, guys. Source us.
Source us.
But I wouldn't be surprised, if this news sort of spreads to other artists, and in 2024 we would see a bigger like industry side of Evo.
Oh, for sure. And I would love to see that, honestly.
There's definitely room for Evo to grow. Unlike AX, I feel AX is kind of capped now. Which again we'll go more into the comparisons later. But right now, Evo still feels like it has room to grow, and it is growing at a faster rate than AX, I would argue.
Oh, for sure. So, and I agree with that. Where Evo feels like it's kind of, or not Evo, AX feels like it's kind of outgrowing the LA Convention Center. I don't think it's to the point yet. It's not like Comic-Con, where Comic-Con is just straight up it can't be in San Diego anymore. It's just too damn big. But AX definitely feels like it's getting to that point. Well, Evil still feels like it can grow. There's still potential for it to keep going and keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's still comfortable. Matter of fact, that was something that I quite liked about Evo, is that there was a lot of people there, but it was never to the point where I felt packed. Like you could still like move around and not feel like you're like sardines in a can all squished together trying to do stuff.
Unless you were like in the Kung Fu Tea line, then it felt a little packed. But other than that, pretty much. And it's also worth noting, actually, this is something I heard definitely more later on, where I heard pools was actually extremely poorly planned. And it's likely because they weren't expecting, or maybe they're not used to this amount of people coming in.
Yeah.
So
they had somewhere, in the very least, Street Fighter, I know alone, just Street Fighter, had something like 7,000 people competing in it. Yeah. Which I can't imagine having to be the guy who has to fucking deal with that. Where you're given 7,000 names. They're like, here, make pools. I'm like, fuck my life.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, I just wanted to walk in, like, very casual local styles, walk in without ever playing the game and see how far I get. And that's kind of what I was expecting with pools. But it was so much of a hassle that I'm just like, I'm not going to bother, I'm not really here to test my might. I was just kind of here to have fun.
Exactly.
And it just looks like it wasn't well organized enough for me to be interested in actually competing in pools.
And that's kind of where I was as well. Is like I never competed in anything. I just went just for the fun. So I never had that stress that you did for that. I was just kind of there just that, have fun, enjoy it, see where it goes.
Yeah, that was the majority of the reason I went, of course. I mean, again, I just wanted to try out pools as a little side thing. But I guess, since we're talking about pools already, I guess we can talk about the gaming side very much.
Just real quick, because I got the number here, there was over 9,000 people that went to EVO this year. Damn near 10,000.
Jeez. How do you squeeze that many people in that small convention? Oh my God.
I know. Oh, well, what's funny is that it never felt like there was like yeah, there's 9,000 people here, or over 9,000 people, I should say. But it never felt like there was that many people, or at least to me, it didn't feel like it.
Yeah, it is a pretty big like room, all things considered.
Mm.
So I guess I could see why it didn't feel that crowded. But I guess to really feel that number, if you go to the gaming in the pool side area, and when I mean like the gaming area, I kind of mean like the little side things where people brought like their own things, like their own like computers. Basically, where Idol Showdown was being held at that point.
Yeah.
Talking about that side, me and Kyle attended. I think the first one was the KI one in day 2, and then we just kind of caught up from all of them from there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Soul Calibur 6 one. That's right. We also saw that one.
The Soul Calibur 6 one as well. We watched some of the older Guilty Gear games there on the side stages. We were mostly there, or I was mostly there for the main stage and main events. So that's usually where you could find me, was kind of hanging out there. Although I would go to the side stages every now and again. Like, for instance, I stuck around the Grand Blue Fantasy side stage a lot just because I really like Grand Blue Fantasy, as well as the Melty Blood. Those were kind of my 2 games that I went there to go see, which I was very happy with.
Yeah. So before I comment on that, I just want to put something really quick on the side by saying there was a little arcade gaming area there as well, and I think it was a little more well organized.
That area was so freaking cool. I was not expecting to see that, where it was this small corner there where it's all the old arcade cabinets, and you got to play against the person right next to you.
Yeah. But yeah, to comment back on what you were saying, I think this is something actually more unique to the main events for day 2, like the more gaming pool side, because you really didn't see this much in main events. Is that you really got to see the flavor of each FGC community. And I think that was one of the coolest parts about, because we kind of missed out on KI because we got there a little late, but once we started closer to like the center of the stages, you really got to feel the energy of each crowd and what each like game, what community built around each game. So you get like the really turbo weaves like at
Melty Blood or Grand Blue, but then you also get like the scrub lords over there at Dragon Ball.
you get all like the Mexicans at KOF, like all the Hispanics and
Mhm.
everything. Like you really got to feel that energy, and I thought that was really cool.
Same. That was like one of my favorite moments where like, so like day one, just to break it up, day one was mostly pools. There wasn't really a whole lot going on. That was mostly pools. Day two was a little bit of pools, but then you start getting some things on main stage, or at least the stage in the back. So that's where you had like the Grand Blue Fantasy tournament, the KOF tournament, the Dragon Ball tournament. And then the third day, which was finals day, that's when you're in the sports arena with the big screen and the Jumbotron and everything's all real cool. And that's where you had things like Marvel versus Capcom and Street Fighter, Tekken, and whatever else.
Yeah, even though I heard that like on day two stuff, some of the main events that were obviously building up to the main uh sorry, all the pools that were building up to the main event, like the big one. I heard there was some really crazy hype stuff with like some of the stuff that happened in Guilty Gear.
Oh yeah.
But
And honestly, you don't even have to tell me that because you could tell just from the crowd. And that was something. So one of my favorite things about the side stages is that there's like 6 side stages all over there, like 3 on each side. And you could always tell whenever something cool or badass happened is because that crowd would just fucking go wild. They would start cheering and yelling and screaming. And then you'll hear the other crowds across on the other side of the convention try to outdo them. So they start screaming, yelling, and cheering. And then someone else tries to do it. And it was just really cool that whenever something badass happened, the whole crowd would just lose its shit.
it was so fucking hype, dude.
It was. That was my favorite part, was just all the hype.
And I guess we can slip into the next topic, which is the main events itself. Which, it's it's got to be the main reason you go to Evo. Honestly, maybe for pools, but like main events is like the reason.
Yeah, and honestly, and we pretty much saw all the main events with the exception of Mortal Kombat 11. That was the only one we missed.
Well, when I mean main events, I usually mean like day 3.
No, day 3. Yeah, I was talking about the 8 lineup. So the main 8 games that they had lined up for Evo this year was Street Fighter 6, which that's the big one. Everyone went there to go see that one. KOF 15, Milty Blood, Guilty Gear Strive, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Tekken 7, Dragon Ball Z Fighters, and Mortal vs. or Mortal. I already read that one. Mortal Kombat 11. So those were the main 8, and the only one we missed was Mortal Kombat. We saw all the others, though.
Yeah. Well, I kind of also missed the huge chunk of the Tekken 7 one because I'm just not interested in that game. But outside of that, it was the going into the big games. What do we want to call them main events? Like what wording are we using here? Like
I would say main events because they were kind of the main games that everyone went, or in the very least the main games.
Yeah. So day 3 main events. Let's just call them main events from now on. These main event games were they're the big reason why you're going to Evo is to view the best of the best on some of the most popular games. And something that this particular stage brings compared to the other ones, at least the ones from day 2, is that you can feel like this crowd is like ready for anything to happen and for them to get hype.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm sure there are people in alcohol, don't get me wrong, but some people were there were like legitimately excited to see it.
Mm-hmm. And that honestly, that's my Evo. I just had a ton of fun with, and a good portion of that was because of the crowd itself. The hype, the cheering, the excitement, everyone wants to be there. Everyone's talking with one another. Like it just felt really it was fun. It was like this fun, welcoming community. Everyone's there to have fun. They're all shit talking one another. They're all having, they're all talking, they're shit talking, they're making fun of each other, but it's all in good name. They're not doing it to be like assholes, but it was fun. It just made things enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. And, you can always watch Evo on Twitch if you want to. And there's definitely hype to be had there, especially because, the commentators do such a good job at commentating everything at Evo to begin with.
For sure.
But, man, that energy when you can feel the crowd.
When you feel it, when you're there in it, immersed in it, you feel it so much more.
It really brings it out of you. And I think that's that alone, if you just want to go to Evo, but you don't want to commit, just want to go for one day, you have to go to the last day.
For sure.
Like
That
that's
the
pretty much the
last
best.
day for sure is like if you want to go just one day at Evo, go last day. That is the most fun day.
Hmm. Um, but yeah, it definitely. I like the way Kyle described it, which it did feel more like a sports event,
Oh
more
yeah.
than it did like a convention at that point.
Like if you're going to go to Evo, don't go in with the idea like, oh, this is going to be like, you know, a Comic Con, or it's going to be like Anime Expo. Like, no, go into it expecting like this is going to be like a baseball game or a football game. It's going to be hype. It's going to be excitement. It's going to be a lot of yelling and cheering, and especially the third day because straight up it's in the sports arena. It's
Yeah,
it's a sport. It's an e-sport. So go in with the idea of like this is going to be a sports event, not a expo.
just with more nerds around.
Just a lot more nerds, which I've never thought I'd ever see nerds cheer more and louder than at like regular football fans at a football stadium.
And we were holding back too. We weren't drinking alcohol, at
Yeah.
least as much.
Actually, I don't think there was a whole lot of alcohol being sold there. In the very least, in the sports arena, I don't believe there was a lot of alcohol being sold. I know in the convention center there wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But that is so yeah, that's gonna close off the first impressions of Evo. And we're gonna get back to Evo after our next topic that we complete. So the next topic is our history with AX. This is something that's a little more different from the first impression for Evo, because now we're just comparing like a bunch of years of AX versus one recent year of Evo. So I guess to dial back our brains a little bit, we live in California, so we're kind of aware of how LA kind of feels. We know the like the not the rumors, the things that you hear out of LA and what it's like, the traffic and the not so safe streets and whatever. You hear it all the time. We're already kind of familiar, but I guess for some people who aren't, when you go to LA, you have to expect you're going to have the traffic, whether you land in LAX or if you land in or if you decide to drive to LA yourself, you're gonna get hit with traffic one way or another. So it's a small preview of the waiting in lines you're gonna be seeing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, and I wanted to talk about that as well, where LA has a shit ton of traffic. Like, expect to be waiting a good hour to 2 hours in traffic. And I remember on our way out, we got out of there relatively early, or not early, but we got out of there relatively quickly. But I think the only reason why is because we left at like midnight when most people are at home. And that was the only time when we didn't hit traffic, was when we were leaving that late. Every other time when we were at AX, there's just traffic everywhere.
Yeah. So, maybe one upside that LA might have is that if you want to plan like a week trip to LA, there's more to do than Las Vegas, just because you can plan a trip to, I don't know, the downtown, Little Tokyo, or Disneyland. Like, there's stuff to do at LA. Want to commit to yourself to doing it.
Universal and whatever else.
Yeah.
There's other theme parks, which Nevada, like, don't get me wrong, like, Las Vegas has stuff to do, but the vast majority of Las Vegas is gambling and shows. So if that's not really something that piques your interest, like it did for us, like us too, I could care less about gambling, and I don't really care about shows. Vegas wasn't really all that interesting to me. Really, the only thing that I found interesting at Vegas was the Hoover Dam and the firing range that they got there, the shooting range. And that was pretty much the only two things that piqued my interest.
Pretty much all the New Vegas references.
Yeah. We're big New Vegas fans, so everything that was like Fallout New Vegas, we knew.
When we arrived, going back a little bit to Vegas, when we arrived at the airport, the very first thing that Kyle pointed out to me was, "Hey, remember this location in New Vegas?"
Yeah, we were standing there in the side of the airport, like, "Oh yeah, look at that! This, if you walk out there, that leads out to McCarran, and which I mean, that's what it is. It's the McCarran Airport, but I was like, oh yeah, I remember all this. They did a pretty good job at replicating this.
That's where the scientist is, right across that room over
Yeah, right
there.
over there. That's where the scientist is. If you go over there, that's where the dishwasher guy is that wants you to fix the dishwasher.
They should make a New Vegas fighting game.
That would be interesting. I'd made Joshua Graham.
Please nerf Josh. He's too strong.
No, he has to be strong.
But yeah, going a little bit back to LA. Yeah, you can do things in LA if you have a car, but I can't. I mean, and there's some public transport in LA you can definitely get around with, but
I would actually say that was one of the benefits to our trip at Expo was that we got a hotel relatively far away. It wasn't like the one for EVO where we were literally like 10-minute walk there. The hotel that we got in LA was, I think, a 30-minute walk, and we did that walk once, and we're like, fuck, this sucks. But Expo also offers public transportation, so they had buses that would go to all the major hotels and pick you up, and that to me saved our trip at AX because it was just like, oh man, this is so much nicer just to be able to sit on a bus and take the bus there.
And here's definitely something that's important to highlight is that if you think the traffic is bad on the freeway there, when you get to the Staples centers, you're gonna get stuck there.
Yeah, it's horrible.
If you can avoid going to the Staples Center area by car, do, because you're gonna get choked. And even if you're trying to look for a parking spot, you're not gonna find one unless you're willing to pay up $50.
Exactly.
It used to be possible back in the early days of AX when we were going, like in 2014, 2015, but it just has become way too bloated to try unless you really know the streets and you know the back areas.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And there's that one parking area that we ended up going to where there is a security guard that chased us out.
Yeah, we tried.
We tried.
But
even though we were like, dude, we're only going to be here for like 20 minutes. Like, come on.
Whatever. Guy's getting paid for it, so he's got to be defensive about his paycheck, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anywho, so yeah, the next big thing to talk about AX, because boy, you think you're ready, you know, like, oh yeah, no, I got to LA, we're good, we're gonna be, you know, doing anime things at AX. No, you're gotta wait in line for a long time. And this could be something that could be like tossed to the very side in like other conventions, but I think it has to have its own subject because lines have become more notorious with AX as they go along the years. And when we went in 2022, you definitely saw the impact of how bad they could get. The only reason why we didn't suffer through it as much is that we were over prepared and we have history with AX. But there's been many, many conventions that we went to for AX where you just stood there for like 3 hours on day one, maybe
for 3 hours waiting to get in. Because I remember when we first went, we didn't realize that there was a back entrance. So again, this goes back to the public transportation part where the buses drop you off. There's a back entrance not too far off from that, and we didn't know that until we started taking the buses in 2022. And then we're like, oh shit, there's another entrance, which is way faster than the front entrance. But I remember the first day when we were there, we went through the front entrance and we waited a good 2 hours. Yeah, we got there nice and early. We got there at like 8 and we waited and we weren't in the convention center until like 10 or 11.
Yeah. Are you referring to 2022 or like the past ones?
2022. That was the one where we were like, the line was wrapped around the building to let us in.
Well, what we did is I already knew the back line, and what's it called? We on day 0 we went to the front just to get like the COVID things like you know done with, and ended up going quite a bit in day 1. So I'm glad we did that one. We got that one out of the way.
Yeah.
But I guess it's worth noting to you guys that I volunteered at AX for 2 years, so I do know kind of like the ins and ends of how AX kind of works. And there's a lot of ways where you can avoid like the really inconvenient parts of AX, but you have to be really familiar with AX. Like, you know, people meme on the word skill issue, but boy, you can feel it if you want to, like your enjoyment of AX feels like you have to be skilled for it. which is kind of insane to ask for in a con.
Yeah. And mind you, AX is way bigger than anything Evo has ever done. Like, this was the biggest Evo ever, and it was just over 9,000. AX pulls in way bigger numbers than those. I'm trying to find the numbers that they had in the very least this year, but so give me some time for that. But they're usually pretty damn big.
The last time I heard,
Here we go.
AX has been one of the biggest conventions in the Staples Center, like, period. Like,
Yeah.
it used to be.
Okay, so for 2023, this year, they had 392,000 people show up compared to Evo, which is only over 9,000.
Yeah, it's you can feel the difference easily, especially considering that because it's not attached to something like the Luxor or the Mandela Bay. Everyone is practically there at the Staples Center, and the Staples Center is really only as large as the combination of the Luxor and the Mandela Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel that thing getting packed, like, fast.
Oh, yeah. Especially in Artist Alley, where they kind of stuffed all the artists into, like, the underground parking garage with no AC, and that whole place is just an absolute shit show.
Yeah. So before we get into Artist Alley, I do want to talk about probably one of the best things and the most interesting things for me for AX, and that's the exhibit hall. So the exhibit hall over the years has definitely evolved. It used to be just like the small industry area with like Artist Alley behind that area. Yeah. And then it slowly started to grow, and there's been more industry stuff, like more things. Like it grew bigger essentially, and to the point it was at in 2022, where everything that you saw in exhibit hall was exclusively either like it was being operated by either a big company or like a quote unquote small business owner, be it something like I don't know, I'm famous for making these prints, but I'm really successful at it, or
like the guys who do car decals. That's something I remember at AX was the car decal guys.
Yeah. So exhibit hall is kind of it used to be a place where you just you kind of get a little mix of everything, but now if you skip all the big industry stuff, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not usually too interested in those things. If you go behind, you get the people that really know what they're doing in their field. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. But like they're still kind of like self-operated. There might be maybe like 2 other people working with them, but you can feel like these people have like talent.
Yeah, these were the small business guys where they're just big enough where they're no longer bound to Artist Alley, but they're still small enough where they're tucked behind the exhibit hall. But you could talk to them and hang out with them and, see where they're from. Like one of the artists that I talked to was a girl who owned the label Generation Monster. And all she would draw was like monster girls. But she did prints, t-shirts, buttons, jackets, backpacks, stuff like that. And she owned her own clothing store. And that's where she made most of her money, was making prints for clothing. And so that was pretty cool. And that's usually what you could see in the back of the exhibit hall, or people like her, or like the car decal guys, where they would just make stickers or decals, like full decals for cars. And you go there and talk to them. And they sold clothes and they also sold prints. But the main thing was for you to like get your car like, what is it? Paint or not painted, get prints for your car from them, or the wraps, get wraps from them. And there's also a skateboard guy there who did skateboards, the underside of the decks. So they were artists, but they were more, in a sense, more unique artists. If you didn't want just like prints and buttons, these guys were the guys to go to, because they had everything, phone cases, skateboards, stickers, clothing. And that's something that I liked about them.
Mm-hmm. So I used to be someone that, back in AX like 2015 era, I used to be super into figurines. And it's kind of funny looking at how figurines have actually drastically reduced. Like the amount of like booths that have figurines, I felt have drastically reduced in the exhibit hall. But what you're seeing now is like you're seeing like a lot more of these bigger, more bombastic like figures in very focused areas. So if you're looking for figurines, there's no longer like quantity, now there's quality.
Mm-hmm. Like that one really huge one that we saw of Naruto.
Oh, there were so many really good ones, but that was one of my favorites, man.
Yeah,
Oh my
that
god,
that thing was cool. It was like $3,000, but it was fucking cool.
only 1,000.
Was it 1,000?
Yeah, not, I mean, it's still a lot of money. Don't
Yeah,
get me
still a
wrong,
lot of money for anyone.
but like, damn, dude, great deal. But you know, if just to maybe emphasize the point more for exhibit hall, you of course always had like your mini celebrities too, to kind of like I guess get a scale of it. You got your Sakani chans and you have your Omo cats and your Team Four Stars working like booths there,
Mm.
or being vendors there. Um, but you also, you know, maybe towards like the center of both like the small business owners and the big industry, you also saw companies like Faku and V Shoujo also have their own panels that are kind of a combination of being kind of like a quote unquote like vendor and also an industry. So if you
Mm.
have a niche you're interested in, there's always at least one mid to big industry thing that you actually might be interested in.
It was the same for the Hololive one as well. They had a Hololive booth.
Exactly.
And the
So
V Shoujo booth was pretty cool because you could go there and you could get prints and shirts and pins and whatnot. But they also had a meet and greet there with the girls, so you go and talk to the girls as well. There's also the Face Connect booth as well, although that wasn't in exhibit hall. That was in the gaming hall, which is kind of funny. But same thing. They had clothing, they had figures that you could buy, they had merch, but then you could also have a meet and greet with some of the girls.
yeah, it was great. Um, but yeah, I feel exhibit hall nowadays. If you want to talk about the main events for Evo at day three, is the big reason to go to Evo. My argument, personally, at least for me, the big reason for you to go to AX is exhibit hall.
Mm.
Like, if you're there to like buy things or at least explore the anime community for maybe a day or two, I think exhibit hall is where you should go.
Exactly. Exhibit hall is definitely where I had the most fun at when we were there, because one is actually big. Like the hallways were big enough where people could actually walk around, and you could actually talk to one another in the exhibit hall, which was kind of nice. Because there were quite a few guys that I just met there at AX where I could just kind of run, strike up a conversation about like Dark Souls or like Zoids or whatever, and just talk to them for like a few minutes, and that was that. And that's something
And
I
that's
really like.
and that's something I quickly want to bring up, more into the comparison area, but I do kind of want to bring it up real quick.
Mhm.
You like if you want to talk about anything niche about fighting games in Evo, you definitely can,
Oh,
but that's great for it. But I've had so many instances where I want to talk about something like extremely popular and like that I would think everyone would know. Like I wanted to maybe crack some Legend of Zelda jokes or talk about something more outside fighting games, and you really can't do that in the FJC because they kind of give you blank faces, and
Mhm.
you really start to realize how kind of like hyper focused this community is in Evo compared to AX, where I feel like you can kind of talk about anything and people will have an idea of it.
Mhm. Which I could understand it. Although I would also say that I kind of enjoyed the Evos fans more because there was so many less people there and it was so much easier to strike up conversations with people at Evo. I didn't have more fun with that because like there was times where I'll just be at Evo just waiting in line and strike up a conversation with a random person and we just start talking about like the tournaments and the people and the players and stuff like that, or where they're from or what games they play. So and again it kind of goes to with Evo being a much smaller but more I don't want to say like
Traded.
not necessarily like insular because they're not really like they don't really keep to themselves. They love talking to others, but they're definitely a much smaller community and much more welcoming compared to AX, which is real huge. But and you could talk to anyone at AX, but you never really get that like close buddiness that you tend to feel at Evo.
So I want to get more into that in the comparison side. He has a whole other tangent.
Oh,
I
yeah,
do want to
that's the
get to,
whole tangent. My bad.
but I'll definitely get more into that in the comparison part. So the next part I want to get into is the artist alley, and artist alley has had an interesting history, like exhibit hall. They're kind of opposites in my enjoyment, where artist alley early hand is the same really cool people you saw in exhibit hall today, were an artist alley back like in 2015.
Yeah.
Um, like artist alley definitely used to be a lot more close knit, and that's kind of where it came from back then. But artist alleys simultaneously got worse for two reasons. One, I feel like the talent that I, or maybe not the talent, but like the niche that I look for has moved to exhibit hall. Even though there's still plenty in artist alley when we went to in 2022. And B, they kind of give artist alley the worst locations possible.
For sure. Like when we were there, like I mentioned earlier, Artist Alley was kind of stuffed under the convention center in like the crappy ass parking garage, and they were all just kind of crammed in there. And there's no AC. The hallways are real small, so everyone's kind of rubbing shoulders while you're trying to pass one another. And it was super stuffy and muggy, and it just got to the point where like I wasn't having fun with Artist Alley. I think I went in there once on one day, and I was like, nah, I'm good. And then I ended up going back to the exhibit hall.
Yep. And the exhibit hall floors are more like they have more rug and they have more like definition, so they were easier to walk. Meanwhile, you just kind of got solid concrete and on Artist Alley, which
Well, it
doesn't
wasn't
sound
even that for me. To me, it was the hallways. Like exhibit hall actually has hallways where it's big enough for you to walk around. Well, Artist Alley, everything's so cramped together that you can't really walk around anyone. Like you could stand there and you could spread your arms out, and you could have one arm on one booth and the next arm on the other booth.
yeah.
You know, they were super close together.
Yeah, it was way too much for Artist Alley for sure. And you know, the last point for Artist Alley for why it is the way it is that it's also just gotten bigger. Like Artist Alley is a lot more smaller. And exhibit hall, there's always a cap on how much you can have for exhibit hall, but it seems Artist Alley like that cap is a lot larger, and it feels a little more like you know, let it ride sort of deal. And what you ended up happening is that you just had like way too many things. Like there were so many like there were kind of like small businesses in Artist Alley because exhibit hall was already kind of capped. So it's just a reason like just keep packing up Artist Alley more and more and more, and eventually it just becomes suffocating down there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even though I think talent down there.
Which is a shame because a lot of those artists are good artists.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you could stop and talk to them and, you know, see where they're from and learn their story and whatnot. But because it's so packed and so many people there, you can't really do that. Well, in the very least, exhibit hall, you can do that.
Yeah, it was so packed that when I had my backpack on, it was so packed that I accidentally knocked out like part of someone's booth, and I feel really bad about that. If you're listening to this, the guy with had the Corona and Cali plushes. Sorry, genuinely, I'm sorry I didn't say sorry, but I didn't know what to say.
Well, you just say sorry. Be polite. Help put them back.
Kyle, do you remember how crowded it was? I just kind of got like washed away.
The
from how
sea
crowded
of people just took you away.
Yeah, like I like, and you know, of course I'm not gonna say like it wasn't my fault because it was my backpack and I bumped into it like an idiot. But like I didn't have any room to like walk around and artist. Like it was too much.
For sure. And that's really the biggest con of AX for me is just the amount of people and like the Artist Alley being so small. Not necessarily small as in like not a lot of people, but because it's big, there's a lot of people, but it's confined to a small area.
Mm-hmm. So if this was 2015, I would recommend that Artist Alley is the reason you go to AX. But those days are long gone. If you're going to AX and you want to go to the Artist Alley, just be prepared that you have the mental fortitude to handle like a packed crowd, like we're talking like mosh pit levels of packed. If you can handle that, go for it. But no, at least from our recommendations, that we believe exhibit hall is a better experience than Artist Alley, at least in 2022.
For sure.
But moving on from Artist Alley, since I think we already drove the point home. The gaming hall has been interesting because it's something we kind of discovered a little later, like around 2016, 2017 is when we discovered Artist Alley, or no, I'm sorry, a gaming hall. And gaming hall is interesting because it's also had its own growth, and I would argue it's the least packed area for AX.
Which it was for sure.
Yeah, back in the day it was extremely barren, and all you would really find is maybe people playing like fighting games, usually Smash or something, and maybe some Street Fighters. I found a guy there playing Soul Calibur 5 once, and I hung out with them. A few arcade stuff, and maybe you might see the history of AX down there, but it really wasn't much. And then when we went to 2022, I was kind of surprised because there were starting to be like booths, like in
Yeah.
some way being formed in gaming hall, which was kind of eyebrow raising when we
Mm.
went there.
Yeah, they definitely started having more booths there to promote stuff. Like they had the mobile game booths there. They had some like upcoming games booths there. They had the car one there with Project Melody.
Yeah,
That was pretty cool.
not cosplayer was something else. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, she was. She was cool.
Jesus Christ. But all the stuff from gaming hall is still there. But it's there's still definitely plenty of legroom in gaming hall, like by none and bar compared to artist alley and even exhibit hall.
Mm.
But
There's
it's
also
kind
the other side of gaming hall, if I remember right. That's all cosplay, and that was a really cool area.
yeah. And that's something we can, maybe to throw on the side is that you'll find cosplays at Evo, but like if you want to like look at crazy looking cosplays,
Expo,
I think
like
like
Expo is the place to go for that.
you can people watch for like an hour with their cosplays, and that has its own entertainment.
Mm.
Like Expo is insane with that.
Yeah, Anime Expo has so much more cosplays compared to Evo, which understandable. Evo's you're there; it's a sports event. You're there to watch games. You're not there to watch cosplayers. Anime
Shout out
Expo, yeah, that's part of the anime experience is cosplay.
Shout out to the Amelia Watson cosplayer that was with almost next to us in
Oh my
all the
god! In like every fucking picture in every scene, that that Amelia Watson cosplayer at Evo was just everywhere.
time. It was great. But gaming hall has definitely evolved in an interesting rate, and I still like going there because like gaming hall is kind of like your cheat way of like finding a seat at Anime Expo.
Mm.
If you just for some place to sit, gaming hall there's usually a chair open. Just have an excuse to play this game or whatever. Who cares? And you'll have an excuse to sit down.
Mm.
But yeah, gaming hall has definitely grown, and I think that's kind of interesting. If you want a place to meet up, gaming hall.
Yeah, it's definitely easier. It's the easiest place to walk around too.
Mm-hmm. So before I kind of maybe get into the next part, I just want to quickly preface because we did talk about this a bit in Evo and we haven't talked about it in AX yet. AX food variety is kind of different because what you see outside the convention center is a bunch of like Hispanic women in their 40s and 50s selling you hot dogs. And there's definitely a lot of vendors out
Some
there.
of those hot dogs smell fucking good too.
Do they? Boy. And of course, you're Christian protesters, but hopefully you're not planning on eating those. But because it's LA, you can find restaurants nearly anywhere. And obviously, the more further away you go from the Staples Center, the easier it is to find. But I find it unlike Las Vegas, where if you try to walk outside, you get burned by the heat. You can kind of find your way around places to eat at LA, especially if you use the public transportation to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I think, at least I prefer LA for that reason. But
yeah. Outside the convention, LA did have quite a few more stops for us to go to. Like they had that one little area where it's basically like little Tokyo, where it's all a bunch of shops and restaurants and whatnot that we would go to. And there's also like little Chinatown and stuff like that. So there's other little areas in LA within walking distance. I wouldn't recommend it because it's a long walk. Take public transportation. But there is a bunch of smaller areas in that area that you could go to and eat. Which Vegas also has stuff like that. It's just who the fuck wants to walk outside in Vegas?
yeah, you're asking for death.
Yeah.
So if you book a hotel, like in one of the a big advice, if you book a hotel under the Anime Expo name, and I don't think it even needs to be under it. I think you just have to be near the area. Look at where the shuttle buses are for AX. And as long as you have the badge, you'll essentially get free public transportation from and to the con.
Yep. And the surrounding area of the con, because the buses go in a circle.
Yes. And one of them happens to be in Little Tokyo. Just use that one to go out and eat. And food there is, sure, there's some lines here and there, but it's relatively cheap.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
It's not convention food where they overprice you on everything.
Yep. Actual restaurants. Good stuff. But
Which
yeah, that's the
reminds me, you remember that one fucking ramen shop we went to where the guy was like, such and such, you hear? Saranara. Like, if you didn't say your name in like 5 seconds, he just fucking crossed your name off the list.
yeah, dude. The guy was like, he wasn't like bodybuilder tattooed, but he kind of had like some tattoos on him. Had a mask. Like he looked like a fucking like a blue Exorcist protagonist.
Mm.
And he was just like, like Daniel. Sayonara. All
Yep.
right, Elizabeth. Sayonara. He was just like, oh well.
Yep. If you didn't say your name in like 5 seconds, you're off the wait list.
Yeah, the guy was super cool, and it sucks because I think he accidentally skipped us, but once we let know another employee, he was we were good.
Yeah.
But I even told that guy, I was like, dude, I like your fucking style, and I remember he just fucking giggled.
He's fucking cool.
Yeah, that guy was fucking awesome. I hope he's I hope he's a CEO of the fucking restaurant now. But
He's probably the owner of the restaurant. It was a small mom and pop shop, if I remember right.
well, it is LA, so nothing's really small and pop, really. But
Yeah.
anywho, yeah, talking about panels a little bit. So panels are a bit of a wild card in LA. In AX, because obviously it can be anything you enjoy. You know, the quality of the panel on the who's running the panel to begin with.
And I will be completely, utterly honest with you guys. I do not go to panels. That is something that I don't do. I prefer exhibit hall and artist alley and gaming hall. I like walking around and talking to people. I don't really go to panels. I think the entire time we were there, I went to maybe like one panel, and you guys went to multiple ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like it's not something that I care for, so I don't really have much to say on panels other than they're just panels. You go there, you watch shows.
yeah, so panels are definitely, they feel more like time wasters sometimes, like just ways to burn time. But my favorite panel that I went to was the Super Eye Patch Wolf one, because there's essentially an entertainer that you're interested in running a panel. And I also went to the Kerber one when he was showing off his own animated thing or whatever. I completely forgot what it was. But my advice to you guys that if you like, the best panels to go to are the ones where there's an influencer you're interested in running the panels. If you're going to the very small ones, they're just kind of there to maybe maybe be slightly entertained. But I would be able to say that go to a panel just to sit down and maybe relax a little and just look at the screen. But that's no longer the case, because I feel panels are becoming, with the size of growth of AX, panels are getting capped more and more frequently. When we went to AX in 2022, I think I only attended 1/4 of the panels I wanted to go to, just because everything started capping.
Yeah. And that brings up the next thing too of panels, is that expect to wait in lines. There is a shit ton of lines for panels. The big one that I remember was the Trash Taste panel, where people were literally lined up as the convention opened to go to that. And that was in a panel that started for like another 4 hours, and people were already lined up for it.
Yep. Because that ended up causing a fear in me, because I wanted to go to the Shindal panel because of that, like really early.
Which we ended up not having to have any issues with that one, because one is a plus 18 panel, so already like 3/4 of the convention can't go to it. And that is another thing I want to bring up real quick, just because it's on my mind. The age difference between EVO and AX was fucking funny to me.
I was gonna bring that up in the comparison area.
All right, well, we'll talk about it there, but that was really funny to me. But anyway, so Shindo was, is a plus 18 artist, so already like 3/4 of the convention can't go there, and he's in a separate building in a hotel from the convention center, so already most people aren't going to go to it, which is why I think that panel was actually okay for us to go to, and we didn't really have any problems.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the other panels, like again the ones that are there at the convention center, all of their lines were outside. And I remember one of our friends was there to go to the Bleach panel, and he had to wait outside for a few hours. And I was going to go with him, and I saw that. I'm like, no. And I turned around and walked back.
Yep. There's just a lot of those you got to accept. And trust me, as someone who's volunteer to help at Anime Expo, some of the lines are just getting more and more ridiculous every time. If you're going to panels, and if you need to go one, you need to go. Line up like 3 hours early if it's like a big one.
For sure.
So you're already sacrificing some of your convention time to go there. But if you think it's worth it, then go for it. But just know that the quality of panels I feel have declined, just because I feel there's a higher prerequisite to try to go to them, unless you get lucky and maybe it's a more niche one than you thought it would be. But yeah, panels have kind of dropped in quality for that reason.
Generally, what I see is that the best panels are the ones that are really hard to get into. With like, say, if you want to say Giguk or like Super Eye Patch Wolf or like the Trash Taste guys. Well, I mean that's Giguk too, but like the big name guys. If you want to go and see them, their panels are usually pretty good. But again, expect to line up for 3 hours to go see them. If you just want to go see like a random panel that's about like yaoi stuff, then chances are you're only gonna have to wait for like 30 minutes to an hour. Not a whole lot of people are gonna go see that.
They'll probably let you in if you just walk in.
You probably just walk right. Actually, well, wait a minute. This is yaoi we're talking about. Fujoshi fans are fucking crazy.
That's fair. Shout out to
maybe
Fujoshi.
Yuri fans, because Yuri fans are a lot more chill compared to Fujoshis.
They're a little hornier though.
Yeah, they're a little hornier, but they tend to be more chill.
But yeah, let's go into the direct comparisons. So that was pretty much our history with AX. And the next session is we want to kind of directly compare AX and EVO as the main subject topic. I'm going to add one more. There we go. But yeah, let's just compare both of them directly. And the first thing I want to bring up, which I think is the most important one to do, is the cost of both. And EVO, it's like we made a lot of mistakes in EVO. We're newer to it. I ended up having like 6 different lanyards for EVO because I bought what did we buy
the fucking ticket system at EVO is so stupid. So you could either buy a ticket for all 3 days, a ticket for 2 days, a ticket for day 1, a ticket for day 2, a ticket for day 3, and then you also have to buy a ticket for if you want to compete. So that's 6 different tickets, and they make no effort to distinguish what any of those are. So when we were buying our tickets for EVO, we didn't know what the fuck we were buying because none of the tickets said what they were.
Yeah, you got to go to some third-party website or whatever to purchase 2 different tickets. It was
fucking stupid, and that was expensive. But on the other hand of that, even though with all those tickets combined, it was only $200, which that's a lot of money. But I think for Anime Expo alone, it's $180, so it wasn't that much more. If you were to buy just one of those tickets from EVO, I believe it's only $80, $50 to $80.
Maybe around there. The last time I bought one, I think it was $120 for all 4 days at AX. So it's not that expensive either.
So roughly, and I think for all 3 days at EVO is probably close to $100 as well. So both, when cost comes to the tickets, they're both around the same price. So expect around $100 for both, regardless of which one you're going to. But what to expect is that you're going to lose a lot of money because both places are very expensive, but in different ways. For instance, at Anime Expo, you're going to be spending a lot of money on just junk, like posters, buttons, figurines, manga, whatever, because they do some pretty good deals there. So you're going to be walking around just buying a bunch of random shit. And next thing you know, you've blown through $500 in an hour. While at EVO, most of the money you're going to be spending at EVO is food, because they kind of nickel and dime you on everything on food. There was even small little convenience stores there that would be charging upwards to $5 for a bottle of water. Granted, you got to move around, and there was a couple convenience stores that I found where, the bottles of water were $2, and you get Starbucks for like $3 or something, or you could get cheap food. It's just you got to kind of go out of your way to get to them. But for the most part, the food court and the convention side of things were very much more so expensive at EVO than it was at AX.
Yeah, completely agree with that one. And the other big one to also add is, even though LA hotels can be a little expensive, boy, getting the Luxor is steep because that ended up costing me and Kyle a grand total. So we ended up splitting it, but it's a grand total of $800 for all 4 days, and that's not a cheap hotel.
$200 a night, which is pretty pricey. Unless you want to go, like, to me, it wasn't horrible because I've paid more for hotel rooms. Like, for instance, Disneyland is also in LA over by AX, and they charge like $500 for a hotel room for one night. And so I've paid that before. So seeing $200 a night, I was like, okay, well, that's to be expected. But I know it was a lot more than what you're expecting.
Yeah, because Booking apparently was lying to my face about the actual price of the hotel. That was pretty dirty of them.
Yeah.
But either way, know that the hotel is probably going to be expensive, matching the price of the food you're going to be getting. Meanwhile, in LA, there's kind of some wiggle room, especially now since last year we discovered the public transportation that opens up more possibilities to like which cheaper hotel you want to go for.
Generally, the further away you go, the cheaper the hotel is.
Yeah, and with public transportation, it's really no problem. In fact, you probably want to take public transportation because maybe you want some downtime with like sitting down.
Yeah, because you walk just to sit down in a nice air-conditioned bus and relax for a little bit. And it's not like it's like super public transportation like LH public transportation where you have like some crazy crackheads running around doing stuff. This is like Anime Expo's public transportation. So you're going to be sharing a bus full of a bunch of nerds like yourself who are also like just as like introverted and antisocial as we are. So no one's going to be saying anything. So you can just kind of sit there and chill.
You only have to worry about the crazy Dragon Ball fans, and that's it.
Yeah. Those guys are a ball. I like those guys. They're fun.
You can go to either Anime Expo or EVO, but you're never going to escape the Dragon Ball fans.
Nope. Enjoy them. I love them. But I know close to like nothing about Dragon Ball.
Good times. But yeah, obviously you can spend more at AX, so that's kind of like your own cap. But the big point to AX is also spending money on like stuff. So yeah, you're gonna feel a price things. It's kind of like where do you want to put your money at? Is essentially how to compare EVO or AX. Because either way, what Kyle said, you're gonna be spending money, and of course put in your own worth as far as like where are you? If you live in Las Vegas, and obviously EVO is more convenient for you, or you don't have to buy like a plane. But if you live like in, I don't know, if you live in Japan, and if you're trying to come to the States, it's going to be much easier landing in LAX and getting to Anime Expo rather than trying to get all the way to Las Vegas.
For sure.
So also know your location price, of course. But either way, that's the cost. And let's talk about something probably more important, which is what's going to be your experience. What do you take out of this? And let's get into the topic that Kyle's been talking about a little bit, which is the people. Yes, I did want to comment on that with how you wanted to talk about like the introvert and extrovert thing or whatever, is that you definitely feel the age difference or the age average in AX and EVO. Now, granted, I do feel AX has slowly been getting older, and that might be my perception as well because I'm also getting older. But I do feel AX, the average age is no longer maybe like 17 back when in 2014. I feel now it's kind of like maybe 20 years old. I want to say is the average for AX.
I think for AX, most people seem to be around like teenage, young adult age. So, teenage college. From like, college age. Think from like 17 or really as young as 16, I'm sure. From 16 to 25 is probably your general age for AX. Meanwhile, at EVO, it's from like 25 to like 40. Yeah, there's much older people at EVO than at AX, which I think is another thing where EVO, that adds to the Evo just feeling a lot more chill and relaxed is because no one really has like the like cringeness that AX fans tend to put off sometimes, where they're not like hyped up full of sugar and energy drinks. They're just like normal dudes being like, oh yeah, I go to bed at 9 because 9's late for me and I gotta wake up at 7 for work. You're generally your more older audience.
No, Evo has cringe, but they have the right kind of cringe, the one that I like.
The other cringe that's fun. But AX, you get like JoJo fans, and I'm like, no, please go away. You guys are very cringe.
Sometimes there's some fun things at AX, and that's not to demean. Like, obviously, Kyle is definitely putting a display of comparison. But generally speaking, I think most people are mature enough in AX, especially in 2022. I don't know how things went in 2023, but in 2022, because maybe there was so much standards with like the COVID stuff back then, to attend AX already required a lot of requirements, and that kind of requires a level of discipline. So a lot of people got filtered out in the 2022 one, because I felt Anime Expo 2022 was a lot more mature than the Anime Expos of the 2010s. In my opinion. I don't know. Again, I heard 2023 was a fucking crazy this year, but obviously we didn't attend. We were at EVO.
Yeah. 2023. I'm looking at the list right now, and they had a shit ton of guests there.
Yeah. Something in like, I know Trash Taste had their own booth, and that line was insane. Oh my goodness. But
which I'm not surprised about.
But that's kind of what, and to go back a little bit with what we're talking about, people in particular, you can definitely find both crowds to talk to, but it's kind of what Kyle said, is that because the audience is older at EVO, you can definitely feel that people just don't really care that much about like talking, because once when you're younger, you're more introverted and maybe you're more self-conscious about who you are. And as you get older, you kind of get more comfortable in the shoes you're in. You can definitely reflect it at EVO, where if you want to initiate a conversation with someone at AX, you kind of have to find a really silver lining of like you have something in common with, and you kind of just maybe kind of nudge yourself and maybe spark a conversation. Meanwhile, at EVO, you're likely to also get approached by someone as much as you are to them, and they'll be cool with it.
For sure, people at EVO were a lot more up to just chatting, because you could just literally walk to any random person and be like, so which game you watching? Or like, hey, so how's this game going? Or what's going on over here? And people just be willing to talk to you. And I think that's just kind of the FGC community in general, that despite the stereotype of them being like super toxic, I think they're some of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Because all of them were just super friendly, super nice. They just want you there to come and have fun. Yeah, there's toxicity, but most of that toxicity is more like for fun than it is them being like actually toxic. It's like, the way I say it, it's like someone who's never been to one of these places would sit there and be like, oh my God, this dude's like making fun of this other guy. That is toxic. That's so horrible. They're so mean. When in actuality, these are two guys that are really good friends who've known each other for like 10 years, and they're just fucking with one another.
Yeah. So like, and I want to be a little more clear with, now that Kyle's adding on his own bias, not to demean you or anything.
Yeah, no worries.
I definitely want to weigh in very quickly. Is like I'm a nerd that lives in the normie life. At the end of the day, going to AX or EVO is refreshing, because these are they're my crowd of people. They're nerds.
They're other nerds that we get to hang out with.
Yeah, and even though AX is maybe a little more introverted and maybe there's a little more of a gap compared to EVO, I would also agree with Kyle that maybe EVO, with the average person, does feel better. Even though I would argue you can find your niches better at AX if you're specifically looking for a niche. Those arguments aside, at the end of the day, these people are nerds, and if you're comfortable in that crowd, you're gonna feel comfortable in both.
For sure, either or you're gonna feel comfortable in. The only thing that you may not feel comfortable with is if you're not a big crowds person. Like if you feel very claustrophobic or uncomfortable around crowds, I would say steer away from the artist alley at AX. Everywhere else would be all right.
Well, also, keep in mind that main events at EVO has its own crowdedness, but
True.
that's just the you are at that point.
Mm.
But yeah, otherwise, like, both crowds are good, but you can definitely feel that the EVO crowd just has like a little more to them.
Yeah.
Um,
There's also
yeah,
a hell of a lot more hype there.
but at the end of the day, again, once again, both people I think both people are fine because you're meeting, your fellow nerds anyways. At the end of the day. So yeah, maybe the next section I had on here was convenience or overall fun. That's both sections, and I think we can just kind of mix them now that I really look at them because they kind of mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and honestly, we kind of already went over convenience with a lot of this.
Yeah, suck at AX. I mean, what else do you need to know, right?
Yeah.
The bus convenient and AX, like, yeah, we kind of already went to it. I guess overall fun is something that I want to actually talk about with. Yeah, I remember the section now. I think I just worded it poorly. Overall fun was
or overall enjoyment of each one.
How do you want to just cap off the direct comparisons of both?
Honestly, I would say that if you want to go to someplace with a bunch of other nerds and just look at cool stuff like posters or panels or, just other, like, look at cool things, but not really have to interact with anyone, I think AX is a good place to go to. You'll probably have a lot more fun there. Like if you're a very introverted person, but you just like watching from the sidelines, AX for sure is a good place to go to. If you like much more of a hyped up crowd, a loud, obnoxious crowd, people talking and hanging out, if you want something like that, then EVO would be more so for you.
Yeah. And to make that other comparison, you can find FGC stuff at Anime Expo, and you can find anime stuff at EVO. But at the end of the day, if you're more focused on anime stuff, then obviously AX. And if you're more focused on FGC stuff, obviously EVO.
Mm.
And
if you're more focused on VTubers, just go to both.
At this point, yeah, at this point. But when it comes to my overall enjoyment tended to come from Anime Expo 2022, just because it's kind of more what I wanted. And Kyle has mentioned many times that, of course, he preferred EVO a lot more.
I preferred EVO a lot more, just because EVO was what I wanted. And that's another thing that I would say is and this goes for both conventions, but especially for EVO, which is you get out of it what you put in. If you're willing to jump in the front of the line, or not the front of the line, but the front of the arena or whatever, trying to get front row seats where you're there with everyone else who's jumping out of their seats, they're yelling, they're screaming, and you're also jumping out of your seat and you're yelling and screaming, you're going to have a jolly good time. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Easily that. And obviously with the same thing goes with what Kyle mentioned about his experiences with Boots. He went up and decided to strike up conversations with them, and a lot of enjoyment also came from that. And it really is, obviously some things are gonna be handed to you, but if you really want to get the most out of it, you got to put your own effort into it. And to cap off what I was saying previously is that even though I may have a preference towards Anime Expo because I like the purchasing stuff, and even that's not to dismiss and say I don't like EVO. Like I loved EVO.
And I know I'm more biased towards EVO just because I like the tournament play. I like that it's a sports event and everyone's hyped and yelling and screaming.
Mm-hmm. But just from my personal opinion, I love both.
Both are fantastic. If I had money, I'd go to both each year.
Yeah, if they weren't so close together, I would if one took place in winter and one in summer, I would be going to both easily, no problem. But maybe because they are so close to each other, there might be more of a choice thing. And I would say if you want to go to your first convention, I would say above everything, if you live closer to Vegas, like really close to Vegas or LA, just pick the one that's closest. Honestly, I think that would alleviate so many more issues. But if you live I don't know, what's something in the center? If you live in Utah or something.
Well, Utah is pretty close to Nevada, so I think maybe Nebraska.
If you live in Phoenix, Arizona, how about that one? If you live in Phoenix and you're trying to decide between going to, maybe these two, judge the experiences on which one sounds better to you. Honestly, just from those two, because I think you can
Oh,
have
you
fun at
mean
both.
middle as in between them. My bad. I thought you meant middle as in like middle of the United States, which is why I mentioned Nebraska. My bad. Yeah. No, Utah is like Utah and Arizona are both kind of in between both.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix might be a little closer to Vegas, but not by much.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, just sort of pick which one you prefer when it
Hmm.
comes to those two. Once again, this is the bias section, but um, I just like AX a little more because I like the city vibe,
Hmm.
and Kyle has stated that he prefers the crowd vibe.
Yeah.
So,
I like the hype. I like the excitement. I like people losing their shit. Yeah.
uh, but yeah, with that said, that's kind of our general opinions. We'll do one more outro, but from this point till the outro, we're just gonna have a bit of an open mic and just talk about the stories and personal experience for both.
Sounds good. So I think one of the ones that I wanted to point out that I always remembered, in the very least from both AX and Evo, with AX, I kind of already mentioned it, was when uh, we were in the exhibit hall and one of our friends had went to go use the bathroom, and so I was standing there holding the merch, and someone ended up seeing, or who was also waiting on his friend to use the bathroom, saw what we were holding, and at the time our friend's a big Zoids fan, and I'm a big Dark Souls fan, so I was hoping both like a box of like Zoids or something, and as well as like the Dark Souls art book. And the guy ended up striking up a conversation with me. And then when our two friends came back, they started talking, and that was just something that I really enjoyed when at AX, where it's just random people, just us talking about like video games and random things that we like. And that was something that I definitely like at AX. And then at Evo, something that I really liked there was for the uh, is for the main stage. I had gotten up early that day to go wait in line so that way I could get us seats as close to the front as I could. And the people in line just immediately just start talking to you. Just like the kid next to me, he had gone there like by himself. This is his first year, but he made it a goal to get as many pictures with people as he possibly can.
Or that.
And I'm like, what, bro? Like, props to you. You're trying to get out of your shell. Fuck yeah. So I ended up taking a picture with him, and he would like run up and try to take pictures of as many people as he could, try to make as many new friends as he can. And that I thought was really cool and really sweet as well. And of course, the whole community was like all for it because, again, it's the FGC, and it seems like that whole community is pretty open, and they really like people there. They're just super friendly with everyone. You could literally walk up to anybody there and strike up a conversation, which is why I really like Evo.
Yeah. So because it is an open mic, I'm not going to be as professional. I'm just going to talk more directly to Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, person viewer, for ignoring you a little, but man, dude, there's that moment because you know me, I love Wooly, man. Wooly is like a guy that I follow, and I really appreciate you like.
Oh, I walked up and like turn around now.
Yeah, you really went for it.
Yeah. Because at that time I already saw him, like, oh hey Wooly, and I walked up, talked to him, got a picture with him, and I was like, fuck, where's Hector?
Even though
it was the one time when you and I like split up, like you went off to go do something, and I was just walking around exhibit hall there, and like there he is, I'm like, oh shit, and like Hector, get here now.
even though he's been like to a billion conventions, this is the first time I've ever seen him like live. It was really cool, like me, like getting to see him. But I did kind of wish I got to say more. But I took the picture like really quick one. I didn't want to be a bother. Like I listen to Trash Taste. Like I'm pretty educated on influencers. They always talk about how they don't want the awkward meet and greet experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to keep it short and be like, taking a picture. Thanks, and that's kind of it, right? Like I didn't want to make it complicated, but it was very strange because when I believe it was day 2, I went back to the hotel and I saw Wooly but with a crowd of people talking. He was in the conversation or something, but at first I didn't know it was Wooly. So I kind of glanced over, like I kind of stared a bit, and then while he was in the middle of the talking, he kind of glanced at me, unsure why I was staring at him, and I just kind of just walked faster past him, like nothing.
Yeah, I think I know who this is.
It was so awkward.
You should have just waved. You should have been like, hey, and just kept walking. Just been real friendly about it.
It's because I already met him like a few hours ago. I didn't want to feel like I was like purposely stalking him or something. Like I didn't want to give a bad impression, right? All I wanted to do is like I wanted to confirm, like, oh shit, is that Wooly again?
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up being so. But by the time I already came to that conclusion, he was already staring back at me.
That's why you should have just did like the sort of like head nod, or like that you do when you see something that you recognize but you don't want to talk to one another. You're just like, hey, and then you just keep walking.
I probably should have. Dude, it was a split-second decision I had to make. So split. Man, that was so awkward. But yeah, it was also kind of funny just seeing Kenny just hanging out from Maximilian Dudes crowd.
Just walking around, hanging out, having a good time.
It's funny because he doesn't really attract a crowd.
No.
Like, in AX, fucking you can, it's very easy for an influencer to fucking.
At AX, they had to go undercover. I remember seeing a Garnt's tweet on that where he literally had to go undercover if he wanted to go walk around anywhere. He had to wear like a mask and sunglasses and a hat and try to blend in as much as he could. While at EVO, anyone, like, you could still walk around. Everyone, like all the big name players were still walking around and people could talk to them and hang out with them.
Unless you're Maximilian Dude, you can't quite do that. But
yeah.
Other than that, I remember that tweet also with like Emery Chu and Didus, who were heavily associated with Giga at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Were also like had like security guards like get out of the way. Sorry, you can't talk to this person. Like, and I think the worst part is that I saw a little bit of them in 2022, like from the glimpse of my eye, like, oh well, what are those like suit people doing? But I didn't see who was in the middle. But when I saw that tweet, like it looks so intimidating.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh, it's them. Uh-oh.
And it did. That picture was also in the artist alley, which makes me think like that is such an awful place to try to clear up space for someone,
Exactly, with how tight knit that whole area was.
That was, yeah. When I saw that too, like that shit's fucking ridiculous, man. And it's crazy because I remember I met Garant for a picture when I volunteered at my first AX. I want to say that was 2016. I volunteered for my first AX, and Garant was getting a bit of a crowd, but I managed to meet him at Gaming Hall, and even though there was like, I don't know, 30-ish people surrounding him, 20-ish, it wasn't something like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And with Holden at the time, he was collaborating more with, just snap the picture and go. But nowadays, like the Trash Taste guys talked about like how they would get pointed out so quickly if they so much even like looked like someone.
Yeah, like if you want to get a picture with them now, you have to go to a specific meet and greet area for them.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of a shame.
It is. It does kind of take away that closeness that you could get with some of them.
Yeah. But oh well, that's just the way the wheels turn.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about one story at EVO that I've said many times, but it's still my favorite one, which is when we said the Dragon Ball Fighters one. It's a cliche now. We said it so many times, but it's when we sat down in the middle of the crowd, and one of the guys in front of us sat in front of a black guy, and just one of them, the Dragon Ball Fighters one. And I remember the black guy was like, "Yo, man, this guy smells like shit." And then he started spraying his fucking body axe right up. And
I fucking remember that. That was hilarious.
And then cue 10 minutes later, and one of the fights begins. Oh, no, the fight doesn't quite begin. The thing wasn't working, and the two first fighters were like
they
playing
had to play rock paper scissors with one another. And I remember I ended up learning that the reason it wasn't working is because the PlayStation ran so hot that it literally melted. And that's why it wasn't working.
The heat of battle. And then, the first match starts, like the first round, and then it comes because it's a 3v3 fighter. The last one that comes down to is Android 18 and Krillin, and the guy behind us like, "Yo, they fighting for custody." I'm like, this crowd's fucking awesome.
It was. That whole crowd was fucking awesome. And anytime something happened, the whole crowd would jump up and start cheering and yelling and screaming.
It was Robbie.
I also liked how in the Grand Blue Fantasy tournament, there's that one chick that sat next to us who came out with like 20 pictures of like memes and shit and just started passing them out to everyone, which was like, here, take one, pass it on. I don't want them back. And anytime something happens, hold it up. And so like you'll see in clips where everyone's just standing there holding up fucking meme photos.
She made sure to let the crowd know that she was a Siegfried fan.
Oh yeah. Anytime fucking Siegfried was on the screen, she would scream. She was a huge Siegfried fan. There's not fucking lungs on that girl.
There wasn't that many females at EVO, but boy, you could notice when they were there.
Yeah.
But what else was that? At EVO, there's another story I wanted to tell. What was it? Besides KI fucking just breaking. Oh yeah, I felt this is really fucking petty, but I found it very. There was a little joy spark in me that when we sat at the main events area, I managed to make the guy to the left of me giggle a little bit when I said the joke, like when they were showing off the trailer for Johnny. That is one slutty looking Johnny, and the guy next to me was like laughing a little bit. I'm like, yeah.
You was slutty looking.
And then I think either you or me, or maybe it was a combination of both of us. We cracked the joke, and the guy to the right of you started laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, man, dude, we should be influencers. We're so fucking good at it.
Look at us now. We could totally do this.
Easy stuff.
Easy. And of course, that kind of goes back to just the crowd in general. Is that the crowd at EVO is just so much more like engaging with one another, where you could sit there and you could laugh with one another and crack jokes.
Dude, we're way better at cracking jokes than we were in 2022. I bet if we went to Anime Expo, we could be fucking tomfoolers.
That's true. That is true. We could probably do that.
Even though I think at AX, man, there's a higher ceiling for competition because there are some goofy people at AX, man.
Yeah, there is.
Do you remember those fucking people that went in a group cosplay as the Raiders from not the Raiders, they were Raiders.
Caesar's Legion. That was fucking cool. Of like 20 guys all dressed up as Caesar's Legion.
Like, dude, I gotta put my hands up. I was like, I can't compete.
Yeah,
you guys are.
That was sick.
There are some insane cosplays. You know, what are some of your favorite cosplays that you remember, either from EVO or AX, but most likely to come from AX?
Well, there's that one. There was the Caesar's Legion guys.
Of course, it should be said that we obviously like the stuff that references the stuff that we like.
Of course.
Because I really like the guy that we found, like I think towards the end of AX last year, which was the guy in full dwarven armor from Skyrim.
Oh, that dude was cool.
It's such a like niche thing to cosplay as, but it was so well done and it was so fucking cool.
Mm. And there was one guy that Derek and I saw there. Well, actually, there's a couple guys where they were dressed up as Dark Souls characters. Where you had a guy dressed up as Slayer, another one as Sartorius, and the third as Ornstein. And of course, I lost my shit on those three because I'm like, oh my god, it's Dark Souls.
Kyle Soyjack.
Oh,
you already have to laugh.
Game.
I think this is worth, so I guess since we have an audience here, I think I should also maybe note is that when you go to AX, prepare to see a lot of cross-dressers. Just sort of a thing, see, to us it's already normalized, but like, yeah.
The entire Nekopara cast, but they're all guys with beards.
That's different. I feel you like, they're honest and they're trying to make a joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, meanwhile, there's people like legitimately trying to attempt to not be noticed as guys immediately,
Oh, yeah. EVO
like
also
trap.
had their fair share of that as well.
Yeah, but boy, not as much as AX.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
what's another story I could bring up? There's a couple stories that in the 2019 one, that the one that I went with only with Derek, there were some interesting things in there, but they're kind of like here and there. Like, there were some Redditors behind us when we were waiting in line. There was Luis the Cone Man that stopped a single car with a single cone. Um, oh my God, there was one time where we were waiting in line and some guy brought like a prop gun for their cosplay, and then like because they were at security check, when we were going by them, they had to tape their entire gun prop all in orange tape, so it just looked like,
Oh, just look like ass.
yeah. I'm just like, fuck, man, poor dude,
For
poor dude.
sure. I do remember from AX when we went for the Shindel panel, there's that one, and this goes back to the AX being kind of cringe, or the fans being cringe at times, where
I
you
know
had
exactly.
that fucking Discord guy who's like read off like an entire like Discord argument between him and some of the guys on his Discord to ask Shindel a question, and Shindel was just like, whatever the last thing you said.
Yeah.
Like just nonchalant, like I don't give a fuck.
I think the cringe is more bearable because I saw the rest of the crowd next to me and they were also like, bro.
Yeah, everyone's just like, bro, shut up. Like this is cringe. Don't do it.
But man, I think he handled it the best. He
Yeah.
handled it like, man. It was also kind of like, I guess it should be expected. But I'm like, there's a handful of girls in the Schindel one. Not a lot,
Yeah.
granted, but like,
No, there's a lot more girls at AX in general.
yeah, of course, that should go without saying. Just because I think, FGC is definitely a more male-dominated scene than it is female.
Hmm.
And I might even say that it might be 55% female, maybe.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say that.
but no, that's not to say I want to discourage any girls from going. In fact, you know what, girls, come on, get your gamer sticks out and like fucking go play Grand Blue, like
Yeah.
go ham.
Go play whichever game you think looks cool. Go for it.
But
Or play
yeah,
Dark
that
Souls.
observation. But yeah, that was another quick observation for crowd differences. Oh yeah, my God, dude, how can I not bring this up? When me and Kyle were just hanging out like in the food court, Kyle points to me and
I know what you're gonna talk about.
so there's a competitive pillow fighting. Everyone has it's like in a ring arena with a crowd behind them.
Yep,
And
it's
then
like a boxing arena, and guys go in there and with like pillows and just beat the shit out of one another.
And then I was Kyle was more direct, but the TV was behind me, so I stopped paying attention. And then like 5 to 10 minutes later, as that thing was going on, he pointed it again, and there was a guy in Joker mask attire walking up with this pillow, trash talking like an idiot.
Yep, dyed green hair with a white face, like the whole like Heath Ledger Joker look, just yelling and being an idiot. I'm like, all right, I could get behind this sport. This is fucking fun.
The fucking pillow fighting itself looks so stupid.
It was stupid, but it was fun. And you can tell
Oh,
the
like,
players were having a good time.
it did look like it though. That was entertaining in its own right. Um, oh yeah, I guess it should be something a little more wide noted. Yeah, I get it. Leffen kind of ruined Guilty Gear Strive bracket, and
Yeah,
but I
that
really like Guilty Gear, but because I thought Umi's show was so entertaining in the Guilty Gear
yeah,
Strive
she's
one.
really good.
Like I've never seen someone do wall bounces to grabs like Umi show did. Like and the was playing sole bad guy, but like then you get and the same thing with the Eno guy. The Eno guy was inspirational. Holy
Yeah,
fuck.
Eno was really good. Where he
Yeah,
was
that
like a character loyalist, as they said. A character loyalist versus tearless enjoyer.
yeah. I like how the commentator pointed that one out, and I feel bad because I can't remember his name, but the guy who was also playing Nagoro Yuki, the guy the way he played, that played Nago was fucking awesome as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just unfortunate that just left and took it. Like it sucks,
Yeah.
but like, you know what? I still enjoyed it. So
And that's the other thing too with Evo is that I think other than Guilty Gear, I enjoyed every single one we watch. I thought all of them were a blast. And really, the only reason why I didn't care for Guilty Gear was because winners bracket, because Leffen was just steamrolling everyone.
yeah,
And so you already knew, like, oh yeah, he's gonna win. There's no chance anyone's gonna beat him.
it's kind of why I said earlier that apparently Pools is really hype in in Guilty Gear because apparently Leffen almost lost.
Did he?
And yeah, he almost lost. Like a Zato player, I forgot who it was. A Zato player almost took him out, and that was like when we were. I think we were watching KOF maybe. The crowd that was getting really really hyped at the Guilty Gear one. The ones that were going insane.
Oh yeah.
So it's unfortunate we missed that, but like we can only be in so many places. But fuck man, yeah,
Dude. That reminds me, there's also the fucking, again, VTuber fans, where you got the fucking Watame guy and the Botan guy facing off against one another.
that was insane.
That was fucking cool. Where they're just like, yeah,
Look,
my Oshi is better than your Oshi.
if man, dude, screw all this like team sponsorship. Hololive should just sponsor players.
That would be fun. That would legitimately be fun.
And you know what? Not even just Hololive. It'd be even funnier if it was like VTuber companies.
Yeah.
So you saw Isanji VTuber being sponsoring the opponent, who is like I don't know, like a Vishojo or a Hololive one.
No, I mean, no, it would be cool if Hololive was just like, hey, Idol Showdown, here's some money. Go make it good.
Yeah, like just put like I don't know, one fourth of like fucking I don't know who's a popular Hololive VTuber. One of the most popular.
Picora.
I don't know, Super right? Or Picora. Put like one tenth of Picora's like super chats as a prize pool, and I bet you that could fucking motivate them enough.
Oh yeah, I mean, personally, I think the whole reason why like VTubers and fighting games get along so well is because of Coefficient. Which shout out to that guy. That dude's pretty cool. Go watch his stuff.
Oh yeah, just this morning in our time, Corona apparently made it to platinum rank in Street Fighter 6.
Ooh, that's cool.
So it looks like she's kind of also having a hand using those two crowds.
Yeah, she's been doing her stuff. She's been gaming like her usual stuff. Her 20-hour long live streams of Assassin's Creed.
But I think this is the only Hololive member that I know of that has been grinding on fighting game stuff.
That hard, yeah. I know Callie played Guilty Gear for a while.
Yeah, she plays fighting games casually here and there. But yeah, it's cool seeing Corone going at it, and it makes me wonder maybe Corone should appear in Japan.
Karane top 6? A VTuber winning? That would be pretty sick.
She's a JP player. But hey man, you never know. What if I become a VTuber and I win Soul Calibur?
Oh, maybe.
Because I'm the only one who cares about Soul Calibur.
That also reminds me of the one dude in Soul Calibur who like almost lost the match and then got a ring out and won.
Oh my god, man!
His opponent had like full health, was about to win, and the dude just knocks him out of the ring and wins.
Yep, you have to watch out for those, man. You can never get too cocky when ring outs is always an option at fucking Soul Calibur. Yeah. I remember the one was like, "Yo, man, where's the hype? Come on." The guy who wanted like a fucking main event hype, but you know, there was only like I don't know, maybe 50 people in the crowd. Like we tried.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot there.
But you know, it's kind of expected when you know you're playing Soul Calibur. Unfortunately. What other tall tales can we speak about for Evo? I'm sure there's some, but it's
there's like, a lot. It's just like which ones do I want to talk about?
Yeah, it's just trying to remember them.
I think one of my all-time favorite moments at Evo was during the Street Fighter 6 Grand Finals. Or it wasn't even the Grand Finals, it was just the finals. The Sea of Lights that everyone kept doing.
Oh, yeah.
That was fucking cool.
And of course, the Chipotle commercials, where every time a Chipotle commercial came up, the whole crowd cheered.
Yeah, the whole crowd would just lose their shit. And it got progressively louder and louder with each commercial.
Yeah, it was great. Man, like seeing who was it? Well, I believe it was either no, it wasn't Angry Bird, it was the other guy. Mage, I believe.
MRD?
Yeah, it was a Dominican Republican guy. When he swwitched to Blanca, holy fuck, dude, that energy for SF6 like flipped.
Oh yeah, because that was his main. Like Blanca was his main, and so when he was debating between playing Blanca, everyone was just like, "Do it, do it, do it!" Like everybody was cheering, and then he chooses them, and the whole crowd fucking loses their shit.
Yeah, and it's because also you didn't see, at least at this point, you haven't seen as much Blanca competitive play, and that shit was hype.
Yeah, I mean, you never see Blanca competitive play. Like, you don't really see Blanca as a character a whole lot in general when it comes to competitive.
But man, dude, I wish we had the same bracket that Capcom Cup had last weekend. Did you see who won last weekend for the Capcom Cup?
No, I didn't.
Snake Eyes with Zangief.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
And he was facing JP, who is his worst matchup but he stole it. Holy fuck.
Oh, I want to see this now. Fuck.
From the losers bracket too.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, that's the other thing too of MRD versus Angry Bird. They were the final two contestants of Street Fighter 6 and EVO, and their whole set, all of their sets was like nail biters on the edge of your seat, because it would be like one would get one, the next one would get one, then he'll get the other one, the next one will get the other one. MRD ended up knocking Angry Bird into losers bracket, and so they reset. They had a bracket reset, and they went through it again. And like, holy shit! Last game, last round. This is fucking crazy.
That shit was hype.
Oh yeah, fuck. And that was that was the thing with most of the games. Almost every one of them was hype as fuck, where they were just constant like back and forth. Yeah. Even with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, it was a constant back and forth with everyone.
I don't know. I'm definitely agreeing with SF6. I'm kind of backing out on the Marvel vs. Capcom one when Zero put you in a corner and that was it.
Yeah.
And unless you were the guy who was playing heavies.
Oh, Can't Believe River, who is my personal favorite.
When he was his first two rounds were pretty hype, but once he got it to the crazy players, it's like
yeah, he started losing. Granted, he's a veteran on the scene, so he's like, I already got multiple EVO belts. It doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing too that I really like about EVO is the sportsmanship. Like the overall sportsmanship, everyone was like super chill and fun. You knew they're all friends. They're all hanging out behind the scenes.
Except for Leffen, of course.
Yeah, except for Leffen. But Leffen hates everybody. And that's fine because everyone hates him too.
Imagine if Guilty Gear Strive was Leffen versus Low Tier God.
Oh, that would have been hilarious.
I would hope a fight would break out.
I would too. Probably because of Low Tier God doing something stupid.
The real fighting games were the real life fist fighting all along.
Yeah.
Who do you think would win, Leffen or Low Tier God?
I put my money on Low Tier God.
Same, because Low Tier God looks like he lifts.
Yeah, exactly. He actually looks like a gym guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leffen, but you don't look like you're that tough in a fist fight. I mean, he could be. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
he's like an arts guy where he's not. Maybe he's a martial arts guy where he kind of like, has his muscles across his body.
Yeah. And you just never notice until you get in a fight and it's too late.
It's like, oh fuck, he knows what he's doing. But yeah. That's about the main stories. I'm sure I have some small ones here and there, but that's kind of it. And this podcast is already getting long and eventually got to edit it.
Oh yeah, we're going on 2 hours right now.
Yeah, so I think we're kind of good for now. So I guess we can go to our outro. So this has been the little mini cast that we made. Of course, it's not really small as it is, but it is more focused between two people. That's why we call it.
It's just something that we had fun with. Like, we both enjoyed EVO and we both enjoyed AX. We just wanted to talk about it, give our thoughts and opinions on both, and see if anyone out there who was interested in them, see what you guys thought. So leave a comment down below. Let us know. If you actually, that's a good idea. If you guys also have any like tips or tricks on what you do whenever you go to a convention, be it like Anime Expo or EVO, leave it down below. Like let's all learn from one another. Let's see some tips, some hints, and whatever.
And as of right now, we're a very small channel to the point where we're pretty much our own audience. We like to watch each other's videos. So if you want to comment, we'll reply to something as of right now. If this video is like five years old and we have 1 million viewers, sorry, it might be a little more difficult. As of right now, hey, we're small, so say anything, and I'll probably reply to something, or one of us will.
For sure.
And for those of maybe the 1 or 2 persons that are still following us for some reason, Derek's working on the Pokemon Sono one. He moved to Korea. He's having, a whole life change. He's got a job now and everything.
Mm.
So we probably be recording another Pokemon one for a while, but the Sinnoh one will come out when it does.
The shit takes time.
It does. But yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you everyone for joining us in this episode of Mild Filler.
Yes, thank you.
With me today was Kyle.
Hello. Thank you guys again for watching. Much appreciate it.
And I have been Hector. And just remember, you don't need a fighting game stick or a hurt box or a hitbox to get started on playing fighting games. Buy your favorite now.
Here's a tip. Most players play on pad anyway.
There you go. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.